Dr. Jaron Stout, thanks so much for joining me today on The Ripple Effect with Ray. So excited to get to chat, get to know you, and how you started collaborative pharmacy consulting. Take it away. Thanks for being here. How and
Yeah,
why did you get started with the company?
yeah. Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate you inviting me on the show. And I'm just surprised I'm the first pharmacist. With that in mind, I have lots of pharmacists I can connect you to that would be just as great, if not better. So, but yeah, I founded Collaborative Pharmacy Consulting in 2017. At that point, I had been working, doing what I do now for a large company, but as a pharmacist, consultant pharmacists that provide consulting services for skilled nursing facilities generally work for a pharmacy. After doing that for 5 years for a pharmacy, I started to see problems of how it was operating. It was more obsessed with making sure that the products were getting delivered appropriately. It was more obsessed with product selection. It was less obsessed with the stuff that I'm passionate about, and that is about making sure people are getting good care, that they're getting the right medication. Um, and there's an inherent conflict of interest because what happens is I'm kind of diving right in here, aren't I? Did that answer your question first of all, or
It does, but please feel free to keep going. I'm very
okay,
intrigued. Yeah, go ahead.
all right. So skilled nursing facilities are required by Medicare regulation to employ a consultant pharmacist to review every resident's medications every month. And so that's what I have been doing for about 13 years now. And what happens is usually when they need a consultant, they'll reach out to a pharmacy and say, hey, we need a pharmacy to provide medications for our residents. The pharmacy will put that together, put a contract together, dispense, and then at the last minute, it's like, oh, yeah, we need a consultant too. So can you just send one of your pharmacists over here every month? And that's unfortunate because there, like I said, that's an inherent conflict of interest. What benefit or what benefit do they have to get rid of unnecessary meds? And I found that pharmacies tended to give me a lot of busy work, just that I had a smaller focus on actually consulting. I was pushing the pharmacy agenda more than I was pushing good patient care. And so I started to build it, and then about 3 or 4 months later, I was laid off from that company, and so I had started it just perfectly timed. So, and I emphasize collaborative practice in my practice. When I join a facility and I provide consulting services, first of all, I'm not pushing a pharmacy agenda. I actually help them get rid of unnecessary meds. I make sure their sliding scale insulin is minimized and it saves their nursing staff a lot of time. Trying to get rid of unnecessary meds also saves them time and burden. And then I'll team up with the physician as soon as I get into the facility and say, hey, guess what? If you contract me as a representative of you, I can extend your billable services, operate on your behalf that you can bill for, and we can both profit from it. And that will extend your reach and provide good patient care. And that way, I'm also teaching more physician groups that guess what? You can hire a pharmacist and not employ a pharmacy or own a pharmacy at the same time. They don't have to be in a pharmacy. Pharmacists can work for medical groups and enhance what they do and not step on their toes or invade their turf and provide good services and make it work. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think that's great. And, I always think that things always happen for a reason, right? There's nothing that happens by accident. And even if we sometimes can't see the blessing that something might have been at the time, it always turns out to be more likely than not better than we could have anticipated or expected. So that's why whenever somebody tells me, say, they experience a layoff for whatever reason, I always want to congratulate them, right? Like,
Agreed. Yeah.
it's like that's my first instinct. Then I kind of reel it back. I pull it back and be like, but are you okay? Are you
Right.
so what would you say as far as since you founded Collaborative Pharmacy Consulting, what have you noticed in the industry? What are things shifting away from? What are things shifting to?
Well, here's the problem I have. So I'm in Utah. I now have 20 employees. The only thing that's changing in the industry is because I'm kind of forcing it to change. The industry has been the same stale and archaic, antiquated process for the last 30 years. And that's why I consider myself an industry disruptor. I'm trying to make it so that we actually provide a good service. Historically, what happens is a pharmacist will just show up just to check a box, just to say, hey, I helped you meet your regulatory requirement. I looked at their med regimen and we're all good. Oh, and by the way, I found that this patient is on aspirin and Plavix, so we should monitor for bleeding. The problem is this resident is in a nursing home, and nurses monitor for bleeding whether or not I identify that the medications are increasing their risk of bleeding. So it's like it's the biggest joke and waste of time for the things that pharmacists do historically has been, the equivalent to just any random person going to drugs.com and typing in their parents' medication regimen and finding out what interactions are present. Because drugs.com will give you a lot of irrelevant stuff that doesn't really clinically matter. But if you don't understand that, it's going to scare you. And so as a pharmacist, we just for the last 34 years just regurgitate data that's already available from drugs.com that nobody takes seriously. And so I'm trying to make it so that rather than me showing up and saying, "Hey, they're on aspirin and Plavix, monitor for bleeding," instead of that, I look at why they're on aspirin and Plavix and assess if it's appropriate. Because more than half the time, I would say close to 70% of the time, I've been able to identify that it was intended to be on both for a short period and then one agent thereafter. So that is our training. And we are not doing that. And as a result, we are 100% replaceable. And that's my opinion, and that's why I'm trying to pull the industry. I won a national award for my efforts about 4 years ago,
Okay.
and I now have 20 employees. I'm branched into 4 states, and I'm in discussions with a client that's in 34 states, another that's in 8, and another that's in all 50. So there's a lot of work to do. And, it was no small task when I set out to do it, but I said I want to change the industry and I want to make it, I want to overhaul the industry basically. So,
Mm.
yeah.
That's so inspiring, especially as far as, I think there's a stigma around the pharmaceutical industry, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a big elephant in the room that so many people try to shy away from, and it's this like big evil giant. So, what would you say to people that are, looking to you? Maybe they're very skeptical or, whatever it is, like they just, what would you say are to the people that are skeptical of like big pharma or the medical industry?
Right. So I think being skeptical of big pharma is a good, healthy thing right now, but we also need to recognize, and this is the way this is my philosophy for life, basically. And you and I kind of touched on this last week when we met. There's extremes in everything. And a good pharmacist knows that the difference between a drug and a poison is
Mm,
just the dose. That's it. So even though we have problems with overprescribing right now, that doesn't mean that all medications are bad and all pharmaceutical companies are also evil. I know a lot of drug reps, and a lot of them really are idealists, and they want to make an impact and they want to do good things and make that impact. The problem is they also work for a large corporation that pushes, sales objectives and stuff like that. So the trick is finding the right drug at the right dose for the right person, and even more importantly, at the right time. And one of the biggest components I found in my industry is, especially in nursing homes, people overlook that drugs are intended for a specific period of time. So if we extend beyond that, it's either no providing no benefit or an increased risk. So even though, yeah, there's a good thing to be skeptical, but don't let it control you to the point where all drugs are bad. In fact, just personal story, my father was recently hospitalized. He had a seizure, and my mom passed away a couple of years ago, and he got remarried to a sweet old lady. She does not like pharmaceuticals. She thinks all pharmaceuticals are bad. So when they gave him Ativan to stop his seizures, and then Ativan to kind of calm him down for an MRI, she was freaking out, like they shouldn't be giving him this stuff. And so I had to like take her by the hand and just look her in the eye and say, "Hey, look, that's my dad. I promise you this is okay. He's getting that dose that he needs. There's nothing to be concerned about here." And if we over worry about that, then I mean, my dad's seizure would have kept going if he didn't get the Ativan. So drugs have a purpose. They are very useful, very helpful. We're at a certain specific period of time in which we have gone too far with medicine, and we need to balance that out. So I hope
Mm.
that answers your question and it
It
helps
does.
people
And
come to that.
yeah. Well, I mean, there's a reason that I invited you on the show, right? We call it the ripple effect with Ray. And, I invite leaders and founders that are doing good work in the world, right? So there's a reason that you're here and sharing your message and your story, because I think so many times we can get confused with the overload of information that's out there.
Yeah,
And I think it's really important to highlight the reality of what we're seeing right now. And I think you brought up a really important point of that, hey, like that ad event saved your father's life. And I've been in like similar situations. I mean, I'm a yogi, a meditator. You'd think that like I would ever be attracted or want to be on any sort of pharmaceutical
right,
there's such to just quickly share, like, I mean, there's also like there's a, I would say, like, toxic spirituality component in, I would say, the spiritual world, that says like, hey, you can like meditate your cancer away, right? And it's just like that's so unbelievably toxic to have
right.
belief. And sure, maybe some people have, maybe some people were able to do that, wonderful, great. But for other people that are in a space of like needing help, that's not going to help them necessarily. And like you don't want them to kind of like wait too long, or the point of no return essentially, right? Which I think is also just really important to highlight and to make it known that like big pharma's not there to like hurt or harm you, right? Essentially,
Right.
like for the most part. I'm not saying, just like there's good and evil everywhere, right? It's a
Yeah,
matter of, discerning and understanding what is helpful versus what is harmful, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's not a single universal path that
Hmm.
is absolutely 100% good for all people. That's just not the way it is. The world is nuanced. It's got gray area. Not one path will work for everyone. It's just not the way it works. And that's my opinion. I know a lot of people will probably disagree.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's not one size fits all for every single person. What
Yeah,
works for one might not work for another, but at least I think we need to kind of come back to this knowledge and education piece, and being able to like advocate for yourself when you can, and also listen to professionals when you should, and again, coming back to yourself and knowing what works best for you. What do you feel like in your company, what over the years has been working really well, what's maybe been a little bit more challenging or frustrating?
for me, the thing that's really been helpful is teamwork. Learning as I grew that I couldn't do it all by myself has been hard for me to learn. But going to nursing homes and recognize that, nursing staff is going to do their job, the prescriber is going to do their job, and I have a very unique role as well. And the when all these components come together, it's like a Voltron forming. I don't know how old you are, but Voltron's from my era. But there's beauty in how all the pieces fit together and learning how to like fit a pharmacist into the clinical role where historically we've just been product pushers.
Mhm.
And that has been very powerful for me and showing people that I don't need to be associated with a pharmacy to provide value. That has also been a powerful component for me throughout my company's lifetime. Part of the growing pains has also been learning how to work with other people and giving up some control and knowing that they're just as passionate as I am. They want to do good, and learning how to turn over the reins to other people and when to step away because I'm very passionate about what I do and I want it done a specific way. But once again, this is not a universal way that has to be done this specific way by every single person every single time. And learning the perspectives of others and letting them bring value and listening to their ideas has been a very big learning curve for me and very helpful. So even though it was a a difficult thing, it's turned into a very, very helpful thing for me.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I think there's so much to be said about having a team, a community stand
Right.
behind you, with you as you navigate and be able to like rely on them to see where you might have missed a gap or a hole or something. Like, wait a minute, we are here and like are actually trying to solve the same issue, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I think that's really, there's something really important to be said about that as well. Where would you say is the next 6, 12 months, 2 years from now, where do you hope to grow?
One of my main goals over the long term has always been to make it so that I no longer want a pharmacy to walk into a building and say, let's provide your consultant pharmacist. I want to make it so that a medical director, a physician, walks into a building and says, let me provide your consultant pharmacist. This one works for me. They're going to educate residents. They're going to fix problems rather than just point to them and let everyone else scramble to figure out if it's a legitimate problem. They'll show up, they'll fix problems, they'll educate residents, they'll visit with residents. And that's probably my biggest goal. And that's where I want to get. And I thought it would hopefully happen near the end of my career. I will say that I am farther than I thought I would be just 7 or 8 years in. And the idea of having actually, I do have a couple of colleagues who now have work in a medical group, and the medical group is now offering it. So it is starting to happen. And I might be closer to that than I thought I was. I'm in discussions with some people right now. And to me, that will bring more value because the more separated we are from the dispensing of the product and product pushing and selection, the more value we can bring to being objective and whether or not a drug should even be on board. That's my main goal. I think my other one would be to make just change the standard of practice so that we're expected to do more. We're accountable. I think for years we kind of floated under the radar as consultants. Nobody even know we exist as consultants. And as a result, we've had no accountability. No, and have you ever read that book? I forget what it's called. I forget what it's called. But one of the things it talks about is, I run 2 miles every day for the last 15 years.
Amazing.
But I'm not going to the Olympics. So
Right.
what's the deal with that? Well, that's because you didn't change, like push yourself every day. Okay, I'm going to get a slower time or a faster time. I'm going to run a little bit farther every single day. You didn't push yourself to grow and get better, is what my profession has been. And my goal is to make it so that we are out of the shadow and we are accountable. We have expectations. That's what I'm in for.
Where can
Thank you.
people find you? How can people work with you?
I've been terrible at social media for the last 6 months because I've been experiencing a lot of growing pains. But generally, I'm on LinkedIn as Jaron Stout. I also have a podcast that I do with the American Society of Consultant Pharmacists. And next week, I will be in San Diego teaching a class with another colleague pharmacist, Thea Blystone, on how more pharmacists can do services like these and start contracting more with medical groups. So LinkedIn and just my email, Jaron at nextlevelpharmd. That's PHARMD.com. And hopefully I'll get more active on social media as things slow down for me.
What is slowing down? Who knows these days?
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you for being on.